Well, today, as part of a Romans 8 memory challenge, we're going to look at Romans 8:21. And a way to understand Paul's flow of thought, we're going to have to read verse 20. So, verse 20, for the creation was subjected to futility, not willingly, but because of him who subjected it in hope, that, verse 21, the creation itself will be set free from its bondage to corruption and obtain the freedom of the glory of the children of God. So, part of Paul's argument here, there's actually a contrast going on in verse 21. You have creation, and has been subjected to servitude, slavery. It's in bondage, and it's to corruption, is where this leads to. In contrast, you have the children of God, and they have freedom. Not in bondage, but they have freedom, and the outcome of that is the glory of God. So, back in verse 18, Paul talked about our sufferings, how they're not worth comparing with the glory that's going to be revealed to us. And in verse 19, creation waits for the revealing of the sons of God, and this would be the revealing of that glory. And so here in 21, Paul's making very clear that the children of God have inheritance of glory. And this is what defines that word hope at the end of verse 20, in hope. 21 defines that hope as the glory of the children of God. Going back to creation, though, creation right now is stuck. It's stuck in longing. It's in bondage to corruption, and that means decay and death. Just endless cycles of decay and death. If you want to get very morbid about it, I guess we could say that this world, because of this corruption, is one giant morgue. Things are always dying around us, even though we may not even notice it. And this defines what Paul says back in verse 20. The creation was subjected to futility, and that is leading to this bondage into corruption, again, death and decay. But notice the pattern here in verse 21. First of all, it's about the glory of the children of God and their freedom. And then based on that, creation is going to have a share in that as best it can as being non-human. The pattern is children of God first. They have precedence. Why is that? Well, again, humanity brought curse on this world, brought this futility and corruption to bear, even though we're supposed to bring blessing and order and peace. But the good news is that God has saved a people for himself. They themselves also had to be set free. So in Galatians chapter 4, verse 8, we read this about what Paul says to believers here. You find it, Galatians 4, verse 8. Formerly, when you did not know God, you were enslaved to those that by nature are not God's. So formerly as believers, you were enslaved. But because of Christ, you've been set free. So Paul writes just a few verses later in chapter 5, verse 1, for freedom, Christ has set us free. So what God is doing is he's preparing a new humanity, a group of transformed rulers, children of God, who will be ready to rule over the transformed creation. And we have an inheritance in God's glory. And Paul's going to make that very clear in verse 30. Those whom he predestined, he also called. Those whom he called, he also justified. And those whom he justified, he also glorified. And so this is what awaits us. It will be revealed to the world one day. But also, creation will have an ability to manifest God's glory. And this is the world we long for, isn't it? No more pain, suffering, death, sin, all these cycles of decay and death. But it's a world where the glory of God is fully manifested, where the children of God, God's own children, are singing and rejoicing God's goodness, his kindness, his mercy, and his power. And all of creation is pointing clearly to its creator and sustainer. In Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 14, we read this, for the earth will be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord as the waters cover the sea. Thank you.